Hello, everybody. Suzanne Hacker here with Welcoming Wow. And I am here today with Brent Phillips, and he is one of our speakers in our Welcoming All Inclusive Hosting Virtual Summit. And Brent is going to share for you his story about his ranch in Texas, how he got into the short-term rental industry, accessible cabins, things like that. So I really want you all to listen to his story and be inspired by everything that has taken place out there. So Brent, if you could introduce yourself and tell us everything that we need to know about the Milk and Honey Ranch.
How wonderful, and what an honor to be here with you. And thank you so much for allowing me to speak. And I think it's really wonderful what you are putting together to raise awareness and to help people, move forward in this direction. So a few things that led to Milk and Honey Ranch happening. COVID was actually one of them. Many people have this like life awakening a moment, right, with COVID, and I was one of them. And I was always at the office, and COVID obviously put us at home, and I was like, I really like being at home.
Sure.
Like, why aren't I spending more time with my family? I actually quite enjoy them.
Nice.
And instead of just working away and just getting a small time with them. So that was the first thing. Then the second thing was we were fortunate enough to sell our company. My brother and I had built a tech-med company that helped people with complex medical cases, getting them, in front of the best possible people to help them. Because how this happened was his daughter had had a stroke at a few days old.
Oh.
And what I've realized in life, some of the most painful moments in our life can actually push us in the most beautiful directions.
Sure.
And that pushed us into that. And so that company was acquired by a public company. And so then we had a freeze in Texas, the great Texas Armageddon.
I remember seeing that.
But, we were one of the families that we didn't have power, I think, for 4 or 5 days, which, doesn't seem like a long time, but we had no heat. We had no power. We were fortunate to have a swimming pool so we could take water out of the swimming pool because we had no water. So we were flushing toilets, with that, and, first world problems still. But anyway, it woke me up to the fact about how useless of a family we were. Because I've always been involved in technology, and so that's my whole life. When the electricity goes out, that's all my skills, that's all my knowledge, it's gone. We didn't know how to fix a water pipe. We were a 95% Uber Eats family. So 95% of our dinners were coming from Uber Eats, and we didn't see a problem with it. I mean, just how wonderful. So those three events really led me to say, I think we need a little bit of a wake up in our life. We need to learn how to be more sustainable. We need to learn how to produce some things. We need to grow some of our own food. Just because of, I felt very exposed, and for my family, that we really were that helpless. So we were going to have this weekend place called Milk and Honey Ranch, and everybody was on board. We're going to get a ranch, we're going to put some chickens, and we're going to learn a little bit about farming. And so I started watching YouTube videos because I know nothing about farming. Nobody in my family has ever been a farmer that I know of. And so I'm watching these videos and my first video I ever watched was how to hatch a chicken. And that just led on and on to all these different things. So as I was watching these videos and I was watching these homesteaders and these people that had made a life change, I realized there was no way we could be weekend warriors. If this was really going to be significant, we would have to move there. And that was where the rest of the family was not on board at all. Not my wife, not the kids. And it was actually very hostile. It was almost like a kidnapping, taking them to the farm. And this place we bought was really in disarray. The house was completely dilapidated, needed to be torn down. There was a barn that had no bathroom. The wells weren't working. And then it sat on the market for a long time. But yet when I saw this place, and I looked at many, many places, I have to believe it was God that ignited something in my heart. Because if you were standing next to me and seeing this place for the first time, you'd be like, no. So I bought it and didn't tell my wife. Not a good thing. If you're listening to this, don't follow my example in this.
Right,
Maybe
that's not good marital advice.
it's not good.
No.
So I bring my wife to see it, and I say, like, I don't tell her I bought it, but I say, like, what do you think? And she's like, I think we should keep looking. And I was like, no, look harder. Anyway, so I mean, to cut a long story short with that, we did move out here. We slept in the barn. It was an incredible reset that we all needed. I'll tell you the story, and I hope you find it funny and not offensive, but I knew the reset had happened. We were we always spend Christmas and Easter and stuff with my brother. And we were at the Ritz-Carlton, right? Which is, you know, it's got that name. And we were in California, Dana Point, which is just stunning. And we were in the Ritz-Carlton. This was before all of this. And my kids were like, this place sucks. And I was like, we're moving to the farm. Like that was the final straw. And I knew this beautiful reset had happened was after the living in the barn, we moved into a trailer. And we went into this trailer, and my kids were like, this is amazing. Right?
Oh,
So we
nice.
all needed our hearts to be reset. We had become consumers, we had become ungrateful, you know, all of this stuff. And I blame myself. I'm the dad, you know. I had led them in this, and now we were waking up. So Milk and Honey was never supposed to be short-term rentals. It was just meant to be a place for our family.
Oh, okay.
And so if you had told me a few years ago that short-term rentals would be like the happiest thing I've ever done in my life, I'd be like, you've got me confused with someone else. There's nothing attractive about short-term rentals on paper.
Sure.
You know, you've got strangers on your land, you've got, you know, all of these things. So, but how it started was we had a big garage that we had built for the cars, and it had a huge attic, like oversized, to the point that I was a little bit annoyed with the person who made the plans. Like, why did you waste so much space? Like, you could put a house up here, right? So when the war broke out in the Ukraine, my software company, we got a lot of guys there. That's exactly what we did. We built a 4-bedroom hotel up above the garage. And we did it in 2 months. I designed it. I've got all the contractors together. We knocked this thing out. And then they couldn't get out of the country. And I was like, what a failure. You know, we did all of this stuff for them, and then they couldn't even come. And so we're like, okay, I guess we'll put it on Airbnb. Let's try that. And that is how it all began. We had people start coming, and I mean, I just fell in love with these guests. We've been very fortunate. 99.9% of our guests are people that you would love to have at your dinner table. It's a very small fraction that, you know, when they leave, you're like, please don't ever come back.
Yes, which we all have those once in a great while, but you're right. Yes.
You know, and then we added another unit and another unit, and that's, you know, that's how it grew. We kind of fell into this almost by mistake, but I don't believe it was a mistake.
Sure. So how many rentals do you have now at the Milk and Honey Ranch?
We have 12
units. You have 12 units right now. Okay.
We have 12. We've just added 3 geodomes, and we have guests checking in 7 days. And up until yesterday, we had no power, no water, no septic, no pathway, no road. So it's gonna, I think those guests who booked are watching on Instagram going like, how on earth is this stay gonna be ready for me? But we're trying.
You'll have it ready. Okay, so what I really want to make sure also that, well, there's a couple more things I want to make sure that we hear from you. First of all is, And I know you didn't intend originally for this to be short-term rental property, that kind of thing, but tell us why it was called the Milk and Honey Ranch.
Yes. So I've grown up in the church, and my mom would always read us stories from scripture, and one of the things was when the Israelites were, leaving slavery, they were going to this land flowing with milk and honey. And so I couldn't think of a better name of a place to arrive to than this like promised land. But it was selfish. It was our promised land. It was just for our family, but I feel like God had a much bigger plan that I didn't even realize he was leading us into.
Okay, awesome. And then I also really want you to share your journey into launching an accessible unit.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Yes. So, because this wasn't meant to be, it was never designed to be something for other people. It was just for our family. So that didn't even cross my mind. And so we're building these units and stuff like that. And this lady reaches out to me. Her name was Jackie, is Jackie, and she says, "Do you have anything wheelchair accessible?" And I was like, "No. This is private property, kind of thing. We don't." And she's like, "Well, it's 2023, but she wasn't mean. She
Right.
was just so kind. And I think that's the key is in
Sure.
life, we all going to miss things because unless you've
Yeah.
been affected by a tragedy or know somebody
Yeah.
who needs an accessible unit, it's not really on your mind. Because we focused in the lanes, and then we need Jackies in our life to say like,
Yeah.
"Excuse me, have you considered this?" And because she was so nice about it, I wrote back to her and I said, "We don't have anything, but would you be willing?" Her husband's in a wheelchair. I said, "Would you be willing to help us design this? Because I obviously know nothing, but if you can help me, we will do it together." And this formed this beautiful relationship. So what I would say, to anybody watching this who's wanting to go down this road, just because you never thought of it before doesn't mean that it's not incredibly important. Because once you awaken to it, then you'll see it everywhere. It's like once you've realized what you've missed, now you see it everywhere. So now I'm like, okay, we've got to do something on the beach, and we need to do something by the hangout, and we need to, do all these things. But it all happened because of Jackie and how kindly she approached me and was willing to not just say, "You should do this," but "Let us help you. We'll come be a part of this thing." And so we did. They came out a couple times, and we would test angles and the bathroom, and I'd run, should I buy this? Should I buy this? Where do I put the grab bar? I mean, that made a world of difference, having somebody who has to live like that rather than looking at theory on a website. It's real life application. So they were supposed to be in the weekend that my wife was in the car accident. They were supposed to check in to their place that we had
Wow.
built for them as a thank you. And do you know that instead of this is where short-term rentals just become something so much more beautiful. Instead of coming to stay in the unit, they came to be at the hospital instead. Now remember, this was just somebody who reached out to me on Facebook. And now I consider them, good friends, but it started with just that. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very passionate about this. We're building a cafe at the moment, and now that's a part of the plans where I would have missed that. So I'm grateful for her reaching out when she did to help us be better.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned your wife's accident, which just happened, what, January 1st-ish?
January 8th.
8th. Okay. So has her accident also changed your perspective at all with accessibility or inclusivity or anything with the short-term rentals that you're doing?
Yes, in a way of wanting to give people a break. And so my wife still got, some damage on the brain, and, she would be diagnosed as having, traumatic brain injury.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And as we've been walking through this, even people who brought us a meal, like the difference that makes, when that's something you don't have to think of in a day, when you're dealing with hospital bills and you're dealing with rehab and you're dealing with all of these things. So this is where having short-term rentals is such a blessing. So we put out a thing online to say, like, hey, do you know anybody who is struggling, who has been in an accident, who's lost their job, who's going through, not just brain injuries, cancer, whatever. We want to gift you a night. Come. So you see, this is now all of a sudden I've got this gift that I can give. And maybe for someone else is baking cookies, but use that gift. And so having this ranch, it is really such a peaceful place where, the animals make you laugh, and the donkeys are making their noise, and the peacocks are showing their feathers and stuff like that. It takes you out of your problems. And just for a moment, you can feel peace. And hopefully, they experience God and all of those things. But that has definitely, it's awoken me up to the amount of people that are hurting and suffering that I didn't even pay attention to. You know what I mean? I was in my lane.
Yeah.
Traumatic brain injury, yes, I'd heard it. It didn't feature in my life.
Sure.
And so these things I'm so grateful for, because I think this is how we become the humans we should be. Sure. Is once we've felt it, once we've walked a road, then we're like, that crazy thing your husband just said, I remember when my wife said that. And
right.
You know what I mean? That's what he's trying to say is this. You can't learn that in a book. You've got to walk some of these roads.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And so what would be your best advice then to vacation rental owners, or maybe even to just real estate investors who are thinking about doing the short-term rental thing, but they're just not sure? What would be your biggest piece of advice to people like that?
So obviously, most people get into this because they're wanting to, have some residual income and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to make a profit. Milk and Honey Ranch grew 500% while we were in the hospital. So nothing to do with our marketing or anything like that. So, but I encourage you to see it as a gift and a tool. If you have the ability to start short-term rentals, yes, you have a way to make money, but don't do it just for money. Find a way to love people because they will feel it. And don't just, and you will make a profit. I believe there's a way to do both. And when you love people, I believe you'll make even more of a profit. We had Airbnb guests donating to my wife's GoFundMe. You know what I mean? All we did was host them. We didn't go to their kids' basketball games. We didn't, you know what I'm saying? But when they were here, man, we did our best to make them feel loved, and they felt it. So there's going to be some times that are tough. You're going to get some guests that you're like, this is not worth it. But I honestly believe the majority of people out there are good.
Yeah.
And wonderful. So find that love first. This is a gift I get to give of hosting, and the profits will follow.
I love it. Well, that's the true meaning of hospitality, really, is what you just said. I love the way you said that, though. So is there anything else that you would want to make sure that people knew, either about your story, Milk and Honey Ranch, accessibility, anything like that? Anything that they should know?
I think as much as we can, try to slow down and look at what is happening. We are so busy running in our lanes that it's very easy to just flip the channel on hurting people versus asking the question, what can I do? And I think, as I'm talking to people who are hosting, I do believe that we can change the world one rental at a time. If if we do that. And that's all we've tried to do with Milk and Honey from the time that God woke me up out of my selfishness and say, hey, this is for more than just you. We've been trying to love people. And that's I think that would be the biggest thing that I'd want people to know is don't, there's all these videos on YouTube, double your profits and nobody talks, what you're doing here is like, care about the people.
Sure.
So if you ever need to be cared for and feel loved, come to Milk and Honey Ranch and we will show you firsthand what it feels like.
I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing your story with everyone today in our Welcoming All Virtual Summit. I really appreciate your time today, Brent.
Thank you so much for the honor.